And I want to start with Kevin Durant. That seems like it's been the news all off season. The whole market seems to be waiting on where Kevin Durant will go. Personally, I think it's going to be back in Brooklyn. I think the trade talks have really stalled. But one new trade talk that has come up over the past couple of days is between Kevin Durant, the Brooklyn Nets, and a potential landing spot with the Boston Celtics. It looks like at the center of those trade talks is Jaylen Brown. Now, since those rumors, those leaks have come out, it looks like those talks have stalled too, but it's still really interesting to look at it. A team that went all the way to the finals with the group they had is in the market for Kevin Durant, and they're going to be willing to give up a key player to do so.
Yeah, it's really kind of like a funny twist of fate because the Nets got swept by the Celtics, and now they're trying to get Durant. It's really just like... but yeah, I'm very excited to see where Durant's going to land. The Celtics could present like a package that includes Jaylen Brown as a part of that deal, and then so he's 25, he's got 2 years remaining on his current contract, and they're also offering some first round picks. So it'll be really interesting to see like if the Nets are going to take this bait and trade off Durant, but I don't know. We'll see.
This is a weird situation. So I've heard that the Celtics. They're not willing to give up Marcus Smart. The Nets wanted Marcus Smart in that deal as well, is what I believe I've heard. And what you're basically doing is blowing up this core that just got you to the finals, which makes no sense to me. For Kevin Durant, who is arguably either the best player in the world or at least a top 3 to top 5 guy. Yes, he's coming off his worst series in his career against the Boston Celtics. But even then, this guy is, he's a generational talent. He's a 7-footer who can pull up from 30. But even with all that considered, why would the Nets make this trade? Even if you get a guy like Jaylen Brown, I mean, the Nets, I feel like, should be going into a full rebuild at this point. Because if you get a Jaylen Brown, you also still have a Kyrie Irving, and they used to play together, but that whole situation was never a good thing in Boston with Kyrie, unless Kyrie's, of course, on the move, which is unlikely now. I just see that Kyrie and KD are probably going to start this season in Brooklyn Nets uniforms, and honestly, I think it's where they both have the best chance to contend at this point.
Yeah, I almost want to try to play devil's advocate with you and see how Durant could put him over the top, but when I look at it, and I think about the playoffs Jaylen Brown had, the stats he had his past 2 seasons, he's only 25. Marcus Smart's 28. Jason Tatum, he's in his early 20s. These are guys that can build a dynasty, maybe a big 3 of some sorts. I know Marcus Smart isn't really on that level, but he's a Defensive Player of the Year. He's someone that still gives you a star, all-star caliber talent on the court, and we saw that with Dennis Rodman in the 90s Bulls. You need that defensive player to accompany 2 scorers. So I really like where the Celtics are now, and it's like you have a good thing going. I don't understand the move to even think about talking with the talking with the Brooklyn Nets about Kevin Durant, because we saw what the backlash was on social media. Even Jaylen Brown, I think, tweeted SMH, quote tweeting one of the reports that he was in the midst of trade talks. He doesn't want to go anywhere. It seems like Jason Tatum and everything, and all the times he's spoken to the media, says, I don't make those decisions. I like our roster right now. I think our roster can win right now. So that's my biggest thing right now with the Celtics. They're in a good spot, and let's take away the point of I don't think they're going to get Kevin Durant. Even talking with the Nets, I think, is a problem for me.
Yeah, I think the Nets are not going to want to let him go. Like after losing Harden last year, I think they're just going to try and build right back up. But I mean, losing Durant would be a massive blow to them.
Yeah, and I
think,
listen, this is a Celtics team built on chemistry. That's how you got this far to the finals. It wasn't that you had, a better talented roster. Better talented roster. I really don't think it was that. It was that you had the chemistry and you got great performances out of Jason Tatum, out of Jaylen Brown to get you there. By talking with the Nets, you're taking a dent into a critical part that got you to the finals. And I think you have to know that if you're the Celtics. You played more games than any other team in the playoffs that season. You played more games than the Warriors. Your guys were tired by the end of it. You had to win close game 7s. So it was a tough road for the Celtics. That explains how it was a very, out of balance finals. You have Steph Curry, you have a lot of veteran playoff guys on that Warriors team. The Celtics weren't ready for that. But that doesn't mean you go trade for Kevin Durant. That doesn't mean you make that move. So for me, it just feels like the Celtics did more bad by even trying to do that instead of building that chemistry. This is a foundation you continue to build on. I think the Celtics can run the East next year if everything goes right. I think the 76ers are right there along with the Bucks. Those are my top 3 teams in the East. But to try to even talk with the Nets, you don't want anything that could get in the way of the chemistry you have. And that's why I think it's a bit of a problem they even did that.
Yeah, I think even if these talks go nowhere, which I don't think they're going anywhere, the damage is already done. You saw it on social media. Jaylen Brown now knows that he was part of trade talks and that the Celtics, quote unquote, may not like him, they may not want him, pardon me. And as a player that really does change the way that you approach the game. You come into that facility knowing that those guys working in those offices were trying to make deals to get rid of you. It really does, it strikes a blow to the chemistry.
And I think the biggest thing is that he's eligible for an extension, and he's a free agent in 2024. So you don't want. I maybe that's the thought process where you get Kevin Durant for longer, where you might get Jaylen Brown. But I wanna bring this guy back. I mean, this is a guy that was critical for your run. He was the guy who was winning games alongside Jason Tatum. It was Jaylen Brown just as much. It was Jason Tatum. He averaged 23 points during the regular season, over 35% from 3, over 47% from the field as a whole. I mean, he was great. I'm pulling up his playoff numbers right now.
I'd say Brown had a better finals than Tatum by far.
I would say Brown was the guy. Tatum was someone who really struggled during those finals. Yeah. And you look at what Jaylen Brown was able to do during the playoffs. He had some great games in the Eastern Conference playoffs over Miami. He was key in those moments. He was really a pivotal part. And he averaged 23 points per game in the finals, 24 points per game in the Eastern Conference Finals. Shot over 48% in the Eastern Conference Finals to help get him there. He was great in the opening series versus Brooklyn, the team that you just beat, but now you're talking with their star. This is not what I was looking for if I'm a Celtics fan. I don't want to blow it out of proportion, but they have a good thing going, and if a deal does happen, which I don't think it will, I think it would hurt the Celtics a lot.
Yeah, and we were kind of talking about something similar to this earlier with the Yankees and the Juan Soto trade. Is it worth the risk to get a big name onto your team if it's going to mess up the chemistry, it's going to mess up the lineup?
Yeah. I think the biggest difference would be that Kevin Durant's so old, he doesn't even help you longevity-wise.
Yeah,
exactly. They just
so
want
it's even worse. I think Juan Soto's young star, you're hoping to keep around for a while.
Yep.
I don't even see Kevin Durant can't even help you past 2 or 3 prime years.
Yeah.
So you really have to win in that window where Jaylen Brown gives you a window of 12 years. That's why when you say that, I agree. It's similar to the Soto situation, but even worse to an extent.
Oh yeah, even worse because now you put those thoughts in the head. He's in a trade something it's just very frustrating.
And I think
for
the thing
him.
with the Celtics is we saw is the defense was as pivotal as the scoring, and you would lose a little of the defensive side of things to gain Kevin Durant. Kevin Durant's not a bad defender, but Jaylen Brown gave you very good defense. They had good defensive chemistry. They played great team defense. You're going to lose that by adding Kevin Durant as much as you're going to gain on the offensive end. That trade-off, like you say, the risk, that's what I worry, is the risk too much, and I think it might be, yeah.
Yeah.
Durant's much older. Not that he's not a good player, like we just said, but Jaylen Brown has many more years, and not only that, you have the chemistry with the team, and it makes no sense to me.
I think it's a head bop, and it's insane that you would even think about trying to make change up what got you to the finals. And I think it's very different than the Miami bubble situation, which I think the comparison would be this is a team that tried to get there year in, year out, had failure, and they finally figured something out. So I wouldn't want to mix anything up if I'm the Celtics. I think